To command fear and respect without uttering a single word is not a matter of posturing, intimidation, or theatrics. It is a matter of presence. Presence is not learned through force, but through inner alignment. The person who carries power in silence is not performing for the world, he is disciplining himself from within. Fear arises in those who witness a person who is unchanged by noise, unmoved by chaos, untouched by provocation. Respect emerges from those who recognize that such a person has mastered something most have never even attempted: sovereignty over their own mind. The world reads people long before it hears them. And the greatest statement you will ever make is the one spoken through your posture, your breath, your focus, and the way you govern your reactions. When you enter a room with your thoughts tethered firmly to your will, you communicate more than any speech could ever express. The person who commands fear and respect without speaking has reduced their life to essentials. They have cut away the useless, the distracting, the reactive, and the self-indulgent. They have refused to negotiate with impulses that weaken the spirit. Such a person does not rush to defend themselves, nor do they scramble for validation. They do not shrink to make others comfortable, nor do they inflate themselves to appear impressive. They walk with the certainty that whatever they need is already inside them. Others sense this. People instinctively fear what they cannot manipulate. They instinctively respect what they cannot shake. When someone stands unshaken, unbothered, whole within themselves, they become a mirror to others' chaos, insecurity, and weakness. Your silence reflects the truth of others back to them, and that truth often terrifies them more than any words could. To cultivate such presence, you must first become intolerant of the noise within you, not the noise of the world that will always exist, but the noise of the mind that leaps to every thought, every fear, every desire, every craving for attention. Most people attempt to control the world before they even attempt to control themselves. This is why their presence carries no weight. A person who cannot rule their own emotions attempts instead to rule the impressions others have of them. But impressions built on performance collapse the moment life applies pressure. Presence built on inner command remains unbreakable. You command fear and respect without speaking when you have disciplined your mind so thoroughly that it no longer betrays you in your face, in your eyes, in your body, or in your decisions. Walk slowly, breathe deeply, and think deliberately. The world is full of people who rush from one thing to the next, who panic at the slightest discomfort, whose bodies betray their anxiety long before they can speak. But the individual who moves at their own pace signals that they are not driven by the world. They are driven by intention. Intentional movement is a sign of inner authority. The hurried are ruled by time, by demands, by expectations. Those who command presence move through life as if they own every moment they choose to occupy. When you slow your movements, you slow your mind. When you slow your mind, you increase your presence. And when your presence expands, your silence begins to speak for you. Your eyes reveal your discipline. Avoid staring for dominance, for that is the behavior of those who lack genuine authority. Instead, look directly when needed, and look away when you choose, not out of fear, but out of command over your attention. Most people's eyes dart with insecurity, searching for approval, reading others' reactions, seeking clues about where they stand. But the one who commands fear and respect gives no such signals. They look with intention, not curiosity, with clarity, not desperation. Their gaze is steady because their inner world is steady. People feel the difference immediately. They sense that you are not looking for their approval, nor are you trying to decide what role you should play in their imagination. You already know who you are. The silent individual who commands respect speaks through posture. Upright, shoulders relaxed, chest open, not puffed out in an attempt to appear larger or more dominant, but aligned with ease. Power does not require tension, insecurity does. A tense body announces fear and uncertainty. A calm, aligned body announces self-governance. When you stand tall without stiffness, you radiate a strength that makes others reconsider their approach. People watch how you carry yourself, not out of admiration, but because they instinctively measure themselves against the presence you project. If your presence is one of calm resolve, they immediately know that they cannot push you without resistance. Not because you are hostile, but because you are anchored. Silence is a tool. Most people use words to avoid silence because silence exposes what they truly feel. But the person who is comfortable with silence is feared because silence is where truth lives. In silence, lies dissolve, pretense collapses, ego shrinks. When you are silent, others project onto you. They reveal themselves by the way they interpret your silence. The insecure think you are judging them. The arrogant think you are beneath them. The wise know you are observing. When you learn to hold silence without scrambling to fill it, you gain an advantage few understand. Your silence becomes an arena where others wrestle with themselves while you remain untouched. To walk the Stoic path of presence, one must first master the art of non-reaction. Reaction is the currency of the weak. Those who react quickly reveal themselves too easily. Their emotions become open territory for others to exploit. But when someone speaks to you with hostility, and your expression does not shift, they feel their own aggression reflected back at them. When someone insults you, and you remain composed, they feel the weight of their own pettiness. When someone raises their voice, and you refuse to rise with them, they are forced to confront their own loss of control. Your lack of reaction exposes what they wish to hide, their emotional dependence on your response. The more someone wants to provoke you, the more power they give you by revealing that your reaction has value to them. Your refusal to react is the moment you take that power away. Presence also comes from boundaries enforced not through threats or explanations, but through decisions. You do not need to announce your standards. You simply act on them. You do not need to explain why you walked away. You simply walk away. You do not need to tell someone that they have crossed a line. You simply stop giving them access. People respect what you enforce, not what you declare. The quiet person who enforces boundaries through consistent action becomes someone others do not take lightly. They realize quickly that you do not bend for approval, and you do not fear losing relationships built on disrespect. Fear comes from your unpredictability in the eyes of those who cannot control you. Respect comes from your predictability in the eyes of those who see your integrity. The person who commands fear and respect without words has mastered the art of emotional neutrality. This does not mean they feel nothing. It means they refuse to let their emotions run ahead of their judgment. Neutrality gives you time to think. It gives you space to understand. It gives you the ability to act from principle rather than impulse. When you remain neutral, you confuse those who expect you to break. The world is conditioned to expect emotional displays: anger, outrage, excitement, desperation. But the neutral person interrupts that pattern. They stand outside the chaos of emotional contagion. The person who is not moved by the emotions of the moment signals that they live by something deeper than circumstance. You command fear and respect without speaking when you detach yourself from outcomes that others cling to. Most people are controlled by desire for approval, desire for status, desire for comfort, desire for attachment. But once you reduce your desires to what you can control, your character, your discipline, your choices, you free yourself from dependence on others. This freedom radiates outward. People sense that you are not desperate for their acceptance, and nothing is more intimidating than someone you cannot reward or punish. You cannot manipulate a person who does not need what you offer. You cannot threaten a person who is willing to walk away. The one who does not cling to outcomes holds the advantage in every interaction. The silent strength you project is amplified by self-possession. Do not allow your thoughts to wander into fantasies, fears, or judgments in moments where presence is required. Keep your mind anchored to your breath, your senses, and your immediate environment. People who drift mentally become scattered physically. People who remain present appear sharper, more aware, more grounded. In any confrontation, social, professional, or personal, the calm, present individual becomes the gravitational center of the room. Others orient themselves around you, because you are the only one whose mind is not drifting between past regrets and future anxieties. Presence is gravity. Mastery over your energy is another element of silent authority. Do not leak energy through constant talking, fidgeting, or attempting to be entertaining. Energy is felt even when unseen. When you preserve your energy, people feel restraint in you, a reserve of force. They sense that you are choosing not to unleash certain aspects of yourself, not because you are afraid, but because you are disciplined. Restraint is more powerful than display. A sword sheathed is more intimidating than a sword swung wildly. People fear what they cannot predict. People respect what they cannot shake. And nothing is more unpredictable than the person who is fully in control of their energy. The Stoic path of presence also requires you to be consistent. Inconsistency weakens presence. When your moods fluctuate wildly, people learn they can destabilize you. When your behavior changes depending on who is around, people learn that your sense of self is fragile. But when you are the same person in private as you are in public, the same person with friends as with strangers, the same person with power as without, people sense a rare form of solidity. You become someone whose presence does not waver with circumstance. People trust a consistent person, and people fear disappointing them. Consistency creates a reputation without you having to speak a word. Another component of silent authority is competence. You must be good at what you do, not loudly, not boastfully, but clearly. Skill speaks before you do. The world respects capability, especially when it is delivered without arrogance. When you perform with precision, without the need for applause, you become someone others rely on and yet cannot fully understand. Competence wrapped in humility is a rare combination. It signals that your power comes from discipline, not ego. People instinctively fear those whose ability is matched by their restraint, because they know such a person does not need to prove themselves. And the one who does not need to prove themselves cannot be pressured into foolishness. To command fear and respect without speaking, you must also embrace solitude. Those who fear being alone reveal that they cannot face their own thoughts. But the person who finds strength in solitude carries a different aura when among others. They do not cling. They do not chase. They do not beg for inclusion. They are whole on their own. This makes their presence feel chosen, not desperate. People respect those who do not need the crowd, and the crowd fears those they cannot claim. Solitude sharpens your awareness, strengthens your mind, and increases your independence. The one who walks alone walks far, and the world notices. Control over your reactions to disrespect is another form of silent power. Disrespect is a test. People disrespect you not to defeat you, but to measure you. If you react emotionally, they learn your weaknesses. If you react impulsively, they learn your triggers. But if you remain composed, they learn your strength. The silent person does not respond to disrespect with indignation, but with indifference. Not because they lack pride, but because their pride is anchored in something deeper than external validation. When you choose not to respond to disrespect, you force others to confront the futility of their actions. You become someone whose approval cannot be demanded, whose attention cannot be forced, whose dignity cannot be shaken. You must also cultivate a life free from the chaos of unnecessary entanglements. Drama, gossip, and emotional entrapments drain presence. The more you involve yourself in conflict that does not concern you, the more your energy scatters. The person who commands fear and respect avoids unnecessary battles. They choose their engagements wisely. They do not fight every fight. They conserve their power for what matters. Their silence does not come from weakness. It comes from clarity. When you conserve your energy for meaningful action, your actions carry far more weight. People fear the person who rarely reacts because when they finally choose to act, the impact is undeniable. The silent person must also learn to tolerate discomfort. Most people panic at the first sign of tension, whether emotional or physical. But the ability to hold discomfort without fleeing, complaining, or collapsing is a sign of inner fortitude. When you can stand in discomfort without breaking, others sense a depth of strength that disturbs them. They wonder what else you can withstand. They wonder what they cannot do to you. Tolerance for discomfort, whether social, emotional, or physical, creates an aura of invincibility. The silent person does not chase comfort, they chase mastery, and mastery requires discomfort. Another aspect of commanding fear and respect is purposeful stillness. Stillness is not inactivity. It is controlled activity. When others are restless, your stillness becomes a statement. Stillness communicates that you are not driven by the same needs as others. Your stillness reveals your thoughtfulness, your patience, your self-control. It is difficult to ignore the person who moves only with intention. It is even harder to read them. And what you cannot read, you cannot predict. What you cannot predict, you cannot manipulate. Your stillness becomes an unspoken threat, not because you intend harm, but because others sense that you harbor the ability to choose your response. Not from fear, but from clarity. Self-respect is perhaps the most important ingredient of presence. If you do not respect yourself, no one else will. Self-respect is shown in how you speak to yourself, how you treat your body, how you protect your time, and how you enforce your boundaries. A person who respects themselves refuses to participate in anything that dilutes their dignity. They refuse to speak ill of themselves, to tolerate disrespect, or to chase validation. Such a person becomes difficult to influence. And what is difficult to influence becomes commanding. Lastly, to command fear and respect without speaking, you must live by principle. Principles are the laws you set for yourself. When you live by principle, your presence reflects stability. People sense that your decisions are not made from impulse, but from conviction. They sense that you are not shaped by the crowd, but by your own internal compass. This creates an aura of authority that cannot be faked. The world respects those who live by values that endure even when inconvenient. The world fears those whose conviction cannot be shaken. When you walk the Stoic path of presence, you become someone whose silence is not emptiness, but depth. Someone whose stillness is not passivity, but control. Someone whose restraint is not weakness, but discipline. Someone whose neutrality is not indifference, but mastery. People fear silence that reflects their own noise. People respect calm that reveals their own chaos. And when you carry yourself with such presence, you no longer need to speak to be heard. Your existence becomes the message. Your life becomes the statement. To command fear and respect without speaking, you must also understand the patterns of human behavior. People fear what they cannot predict, and they respect what they cannot corrupt. Most individuals reveal their motives quickly, in their eagerness, in their excitement, in their emotional spillover. But the silent, observant person reveals nothing. They watch, they listen, they calculate, they wait. They do not interrupt. They do not rush to fill gaps in the conversation. They do not expose their emotions at the first sign of provocation. This patience unsettles people. They feel as if they are being measured, evaluated, understood more deeply than they understand themselves. And that alone gives you the advantage. A silent observer is more powerful than a loud participant. Patience is not passive. Patience is control. When you let others speak first, you let them show their cards. When you refrain from reacting, you let them reveal their intentions. When you allow silence to stretch, you watch their insecurities rise. People who fear silence begin to talk carelessly. They confess things they shouldn't. They fill the quiet with explanations, excuses, and justifications. Meanwhile, the silent person remains mysterious, untouchable, unreadable. Mystery is a stronger form of power than intimidation. Intimidation demands reaction. Mystery invites uncertainty. It is uncertainty that commands fear. Another part of presence is the way you handle conflict. Most people treat conflict like a fire. They either run from it or throw themselves into it recklessly. But the one who commands respect surveys the flames calmly. They step into conflict only when necessary, and they do so with precision, not emotion. This composure signals a rare authority. People quickly realize that you cannot be baited into foolishness. You cannot be pushed into losing your temper. You cannot be manipulated into giving away your position. When you remain calm in conflict, you become the anchor others gravitate toward, even when they do not like you. Respect is not always accompanied by affection. Many respect the person they fear disappointing. To command fear and respect, you must also master the discipline of saying less. Every word you speak should be deliberate, measured, purposeful. A person who speaks constantly devalues their voice, but the person who speaks rarely turns every word into an event. When you reserve your voice, you give it weight. When you choose your words, you give them impact. Silence itself becomes a form of communication. When you're silent after someone insults you, it communicates that their words do not reach you. When you're silent in a negotiation, it communicates that you are not desperate. When you're silent during chaos, it communicates that you are grounded. Silence can communicate power more effectively than speech ever could. True presence also requires internal honesty. You cannot project authority if you lie to yourself about your weaknesses. Self-deception creates cracks in your presence that others can sense immediately. Be brutally honest with yourself. Know where you lack discipline. Know what triggers you. Know what fears still grip your mind. Only through honesty can you work on the parts of yourself that fracture your strength. The person who does not fear confronting themselves becomes someone others cannot confront easily. Internal clarity creates external force. Self-governance also involves taking responsibility for your actions, your moods, and your choices. When you blame others, even subtly, you show that your inner world is ruled by something outside of you. This weakens your presence. But the one who takes responsibility, even for what is difficult, displays an internal spine that others cannot ignore. Responsibility is the foundation of authority. Those who take responsibility command respect, because responsibility is the rarest form of strength. Most people run from it. When you accept it willingly, you stand apart. You must also learn to control your tone and your breath. Even when you choose to speak, you must do so without strain, without haste, without insecurity. A calm voice is more commanding than a loud one. Loudness reveals desperation, calmness reveals control. Breath is the anchor behind tone. When your breathing is slow, your voice becomes steady. When your breathing is steady, your demeanor becomes firm. Others sense this instinctively. A person whose breath is slow under pressure radiates power, because they show that nothing external has reached the core of their being. Another way to command fear and respect without words is through the discipline of minimalism. Not in possessions, but in thought, intention, and action. When your mind carries too many desires, too many ambitions, too many opinions, your presence becomes diluted. But when your desires are few and your purpose is clear, your energy becomes potent. You do not chase every distraction, react to every provocation, or speak on every topic. This focus is intimidating to those who scatter their minds across 100 trivial concerns. The focused person appears unstoppable. They appear unwavering. People fear what moves with clarity. Your presence also deepens as you eliminate the need to be liked. The desire to be liked is the origin of weakness. It makes you agreeable in situations where you should stand firm. It makes you silent in moments where you should speak. It makes you tolerate disrespect to avoid conflict. To command respect, you must live with the understanding that not everyone will like you, and that their approval is irrelevant. When someone realizes you are not seeking validation, their behavior toward you shifts. They treat you differently. They choose their words more carefully. They sense that pleasing you is not easy, and disappointing you is not disastrous. This distance gives your presence more gravity. You must also detach from the need to explain yourself. Explanations are often attempts to control perception. But when you trust your own decisions, you no longer seek to justify them. The more you explain, the less others respect your choices. The less you explain, the more they trust your conviction. People respect firmness. They respect clarity. They respect decisions made without apology. Commanding fear and respect also involves learning to endure being misunderstood. Many cannot handle this. They rush to clarify, defend, correct. But the person of strong presence embraces misunderstanding because they know the truth will reveal itself in time. They do not chase after false narratives. They do not correct every misconception. They understand that silence in the face of misunderstanding is a form of power. People come to recognize that you do not concern yourself with gossip or opinion. You concern yourself with character and action. This is rare. Rarity is respected. You must also learn to master your habits. A person of presence does not waste their days on trivial pleasures, mindless entertainment, or impulsive consumption. Their habits are disciplined. They sleep well, they rise early, they work with consistency, they train their body, they read, they reflect, they grow. Their habits create a momentum that others can feel. You can sense when someone lives with discipline, not because they say it, but because it radiates through them. Discipline creates presence. It strengthens posture, sharpens gaze, and solidifies demeanor. When others feel your discipline, they treat you differently. To command fear and respect without speaking, you must also cultivate emotional independence. Never depend on others to dictate how you feel. When you give someone the power to influence your emotions, you also give them power over your presence. The emotionally independent person walks through the world untouched by the shifting moods of others. They do not absorb negativity. They do not mirror anger. They do not participate in emotional games. Their inner state is self-generated. This independence makes their presence impenetrable. Presence is also strengthened by the ability to walk away, not in anger, but in certainty. The person who can walk away from disrespect, from chaos, from temptation, from comfort, from attachment, commands a kind of respect that cannot be earned through confrontation. Walking away is not surrender. Walking away is authority. It is the declaration that your peace is not negotiable. It is the recognition that your time is valuable. It is the signal that your standards are real, not spoken fantasies. You must also develop a mind that listens more than it speaks. When you listen deeply, without eagerness to reply, you demonstrate mental strength. People can feel when someone listens to understand rather than reply. And those who feel understood instinctively respect the one who understands them. Listening is not weakness, it is strategy. It gives you information. It gives you clarity. It gives you leverage. The one who listens always knows more than the one who speaks. Knowledge, especially quiet knowledge, amplifies presence. Self-discipline extends to controlling your environment. Surround yourself with order, with simplicity, with routine. A cluttered environment reveals a cluttered mind. Chaos around you creates chaos within you. But a clean, orderly environment sharpens your thinking and deepens your presence. When others enter your space and feel the discipline of your surroundings, they sense your commitment to self-mastery. To command fear and respect without speaking, you must treat your time as sacred. Do not give it freely. Do not let others waste it. Do not allow your schedule to be dictated by the whims of those who lack direction. When people see that you protect your time fiercely, they realize you are not easily accessed. Scarcity increases value. The more available you are, the less you are respected. The more selective you become, the more weight your presence carries. Your presence is also shaped by how you handle your failures. Do not hide from them. Do not deny them. Do not let them break you. View each failure as training. Every setback strengthens your endurance. Every disappointment sharpens your judgment. Every mistake deepens your wisdom. The person who is unafraid of failure becomes unstoppable, because failure loses its power to intimidate them. And when you are no longer intimidated by failure, you become someone others hesitate to challenge. Presence is also shaped by calm decisiveness. Indecision is a disease of the mind. It reveals fear. It reveals confusion. But when you make decisions quickly, cleanly, and confidently, others sense that you trust yourself. Self-trust commands respect. People instinctively follow the person who acts with clarity, even if they do not fully understand the decision. Decisiveness communicates dominance over uncertainty. Ultimately, to command fear and respect without speaking, you must live as if your actions are your only voice. Let your discipline speak. Let your boundaries speak. Let your silence speak. Let your consistency speak. Let your presence speak. To command fear and respect without saying a word, you must understand that most people live as fragments of themselves. They scatter their attention across countless distractions. Their minds are pulled by impulse, their emotions controlled by external events, their energy divided between trivial pursuits. Such individuals move through the world without coherence. But the one who commands presence has gathered every fragment of themselves into a single, unified force. Their mind, body, and intention move in the same direction. This unity can be felt before a single word is spoken. Others cannot always explain what they feel when someone of inner unity enters a room, but they sense it instinctively, an invisible weight, a grounded energy, a gravitational calm. Those who lack inner unity are unsettled by those who possess it. Another part of your silent presence is your refusal to chase certainty from the outside world. People who require constant reassurance weaken their spirit with every request for comfort. But when you create certainty from within, certainty built on your discipline, your values, and your controlled mind, you become unshakable. Others can sense that you are not looking to them for direction or validation. They sense that you carry your own compass. And when someone brings their own guiding force into the presence of others, they naturally assume a position of influence. They do not dominate by force, but by stability. The unstable always follow the stable. Your presence grows stronger when you stop rushing through life. Rushing communicates fear. Fear of missing out. Fear of falling behind. Fear of being judged. But moving with deliberate slowness communicates that you govern time, not the other way around. You are not carried by the river, you walk beside it. Slowness is not laziness, it is control. The more calmly you move through life, the more others sense the depth of your internal foundation. Slow, thoughtful movement unsettles the impatient. They begin to ask themselves why you are so calm. What do you know that they don't? What strength are you hiding? What storms have you survived that made you so unhurried? Calmness provokes curiosity, and curiosity is the beginning of respect. Presence is built on symmetry between your internal world and your external behavior. Many people perform calmness while their minds are in chaos. They pretend to be confident while their thoughts betray them. But the person who truly commands presence speaks and behaves in accordance with their internal state. There is no acting. There is no pretending. Your calmness is real. Your silence is intentional. Your stillness is disciplined. When the external matches the internal, your presence becomes authentic. And authenticity carries a weight that performance can never imitate. People see through facades quickly, even when they cannot explain it. But authenticity resonates at a level that requires no interpretation. You must also learn to carry your pain with dignity, not by suppressing it, and not by denying it, but by holding it without letting it distort your character. Everyone suffers, but the difference lies in how one responds to suffering. Some collapse under it. Some blame the world for it. Some broadcast it to receive sympathy. But the one who carries pain quietly, with steady breath and unwavering posture, becomes someone others admire, even if they do not fully understand why. Silent dignity in the face of pain is one of the most powerful forms of presence. It shows that you have wrestled with the parts of life that terrify others and emerged not unscarred, but stronger. Scars carried with grace command respect. Your presence strengthens when your desires shrink. The person who wants too much always appears weak, because their emptiness is visible. But the one who desires little appears powerful, because nothing controls them. When you want less, you fear less. When you fear less, you act with more certainty. When you act with certainty, others look to you for direction. You become the one who is followed, not the one who follows. Desire is a chain. Freedom from desire is a weapon. and those who have broken their chains walk differently. Calmer, lighter, sharper. Your silence becomes more powerful when you master the expression on your face. Not a blank expression, but a controlled one. People reveal their entire emotional world through their face. Their worry, insecurity, fear, approval, seeking, anger. But the one who controls their facial expressions controls the information they give away. A calm, steady expression is more intimidating than a glare. A neutral expression is more powerful than an angry one. People fear the ones they cannot read. And when your face reveals nothing, others guess at everything. Another part of silent presence is learning to be fully comfortable in your own body. People who shrink, fidget, or collapse into themselves signal insecurity. But the person who occupies their space with quiet confidence, not arrogance, not bravado, but ownership, creates an unspoken command. Your posture tells others how to treat you. When you sit or stand with grounded certainty, people instinctively adjust their behavior around you. Presence begins with posture long before it reaches speech. You must also develop the ability to remain calm when others are emotional. When people lose control around you. When they become angry, desperate, frantic, or dramatic, and you remain still, they feel their own lack of control more intensely. This is one of the most powerful ways to command silent authority. Your calmness becomes a mirror that shows others their instability, and no one wants to appear unstable in the presence of someone who is composed. Your presence then becomes a corrective force. Emotional turbulence cannot survive long around those who are internally still. To command fear and respect without speaking, you must cultivate an aura of self-reliance. People respect those who do not beg for help or crumble under responsibility. They fear those who do not rely on comfort, attention, or praise. When you become someone who needs little, others instinctively sense that your strength is not borrowed. It is self-created. Such a person becomes someone others fear disappointing because they know you do not depend on them. You do not chase. You do not cling. You do not crumble when abandoned. You carry yourself with the quiet assurance that you are enough. You must learn to stand unshakable in your truth. Most people adjust their opinions depending on who is around. They say one thing in private and another in public. They shift their beliefs to avoid judgment. But the person with presence speaks their truth calmly, without hostility, and stands by it even when challenged. People may disagree with you, but they will respect the certainty with which you hold your values. Certainty without aggression is a powerful combination. It communicates that your beliefs are not reactions. They are principles, and principles command respect even from those who oppose them. Another part of presence is understanding the power of rarity. The more unusual your discipline is, the more your presence stands out. Most people indulge themselves. Most people chase distractions. Most people break their own promises. So when someone appears who lives with discipline, restraint, patience, and clarity, they become impossible to ignore. Rarity creates value when your habits, your focus, and your self-control are rare. Your presence becomes something people cannot look away from. The silent person commands respect because they do not reveal their entire character at once. They reveal themselves gradually, through actions, through consistency, through behavior under pressure. People who reveal too much too quickly give away their entire identity before others have earned the right to see it. But the person who reveals themselves slowly creates intrigue. Curiosity becomes respect. Respect becomes caution. Caution becomes silent fear. To deepen your presence, you must also detach from the opinions of the masses. Public opinion is unstable, inconsistent, and often irrational. If you allow yourself to be guided by it, your presence will crumble. But when you walk a path that is guided by your own introspection, you separate yourself from the emotional tides of others. You become like stone, still, grounded, unmoved. People respect those who cannot be swayed easily. They fear those who are not emotionally invested in being accepted. You must also practice emotional unreadability, not coldness, but composure. Your emotions should be felt deeply within, but rarely displayed recklessly. Others should not be able to guess your internal state by your outward behavior. Emotional discipline gives you strategic advantage in every interaction. The one who reveals their emotions loses control. The one who controls their emotions gains influence. Another aspect of commanding silent respect is the willingness to endure boredom. Most people avoid stillness because it forces them to confront themselves. But the person who trains themselves to sit in boredom, without reaching for distraction, without escaping into entertainment, cultivates mental strength that radiates outward. A mind that can endure stillness becomes impenetrable. When others sense that you are not enslaved by the stimulation they require, they treat you differently. To command presence, you must also live with quiet intention. Every action should have a purpose. Every movement should be chosen. Every habit should be deliberate. Intention transforms the ordinary into the powerful. People can feel when you move with purpose instead of impulse. Purpose gives weight to your presence. Your silence, your discipline, your composure. These things do not make you invisible, they make you unmistakable. People feel your presence, even when they do not speak to you. They remember you even when you say nothing. They adjust their behavior, even when you do not demand it.